But it's good to be here, really. And this consolidation topic has been spoken about in this industry for a long time. There are many reports to it. The GSMA does the study, there's the reports about profitability, about if you have a 2-player, 3-player market, 4-player market, and we're seeing this unfolding in many markets. India was the extreme one, 11 to 3 or 3+1. It's happening in Malaysia, it happened in Indonesia, it happened in Thailand, in the region. So there's a lot of consolidation because of, well, the industry some market is fragmented, number one. Number two, if you look at how the market demand has changed quite significantly, so the resources needs to be pulled together in a lot more efficient way in order for us to move in the future. But as Vikram was saying, the industry also is quite scary. What's happening to the industry is quite scary. And the one thing though about the industry and the industry players that I see within my career is that the industry is also quite resilient. We have changed from many different technologies, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and we continue to be able to invest and continue to give services to our customers, but continue to also give return to our shareholders. I think those are the 3 formulas that we need to continue to give. So the industry has to be resilient. And I think the presentation, the chart that was presented just now earlier, that is scary. That is scary when both lines are going in the wrong direction. You notice that both lines are going in the direction, revenue going the wrong way, and the CapEx going the wrong way. So that's, I think, what really drives the consolidation. And what probably is happening today is only just the beginning of the consolidation.
Yeah. And Vikram, because you mentioned it earlier to me, I think 5 years ago, whenever we saw mergers, it was sort of, everyone was scared this will not lead 1 + 1 will be more than 2. It was 1 + 1 was 1.5, no? And maybe...
Yeah, so I think, listening to Idham, my first learning when I was sitting here, I think you should know the audience whom you are talking to. So somebody, I think from one of the company, yes, I agree to a certain extent, and I'm just building on what Idham is telling and coming to your point, that some of these chart, what was shown, CapEx going one direction, revenue going another direction. But the more important thing is, please understand the role of telco industry. It's very fundamental. I can tell you, telco is not going to go anywhere. The role of telco industry, and this I realized during COVID period. During COVID period, when we all realized the respect for telco industry, all this GSMA report, telco was rated close to tobacco. We are not that bad. We are putting so much of money in the industry, putting infrastructure. I think the mistake which we did was we were very inward looking. We were never able to win the trust of the customer. All these vast services, roaming issues, we were very self-inflictive. So I think COVID was a turning point for the industry. And what every country, every policy maker have realized that how important is the role of telco industry. There is a direct linkage between the GDP growth and then with AI coming, there are clear examples. If the telco industries are not healthy, AI investment is not possible. I think the first message, Nikolai, I want to give, telco is not going to go anywhere. Telco will exist and you will see more and more stronger telcos, Yes, because it is a scale business, spectrum is the natural important resource of a country. How you are using the spectrum, how you are using it for the best interest of creating the digital economy. I think these are some of these things which is very important. Now coming to your question, I still remember my first investor analyst call, 2021 September. We had signed the binding and we were in the process that within 100 days merger will happen. There were close to 200 analyst investor. They are all asking me one question, how much you will lose? Okay, how much synergy value you will drive? I was a bit nervous, because I was reading the script from consultants and all the book was done by clean team. I'm in the operation. Before merger, there are clean team, non-clean team. And I was reading the script. The script given to me was that this merger is good for the country and it is good for experience and it will be good for shareholder and employee. The first person to start believing after repeatedly telling again and again was only me. It took me some time to get my direct reportees on board. So the point which I'm trying to say is, it's a fact, historically, more than 92-93% telco merger has struggled, especially for first 2 to 3 years. And one of the main reasons for that is most of the mergers are driven basis the analysts and investors and the whole build-up on efficiency and synergy value. What the point which I was trying to tell you, Nikolai, is what is important is that if you work, in our case, what we did, we were very clear that yes, if I'm telling that this merger is good for the industry, let's make sure how it is good for the industry, how it is good for the country, how we are using the spectrum in the best interest of the country. So I think the approach on growth mindset, how do you make 1 + 1 = 11? Synergy values are minimum must do. You have to do your job properly. But have you ever seen any organization enjoying, driving, and flourishing on synergy values? The answer is no. So I think the biggest learning is if you approach a merger with a larger purpose and you make sure you work with growth mindset, keep customer on the center of everything. Customer don't care. You merge, you don't merge. They don't care. What they want is how we are improving their experience. So I think this is a big shift. And I remember having, dinner with Datuk Idham. And between both of us, I am 1 year ahead of the curve. I'm completing 3 years of merger. I'm happy to see at least Asia is setting the standard that merger will be successful. And going forward, it is giving a playbook, not only to Asia, to Europe also, that how to look at mergers.
No, and congratulations, I think, to both of you. Now, it's clear that mergers on the telco side will continue. The question is, of course, will this also impact the infrastructure side, the Towerco side, and will we see more mergers also on the infrastructure side? Adlan, maybe if you can start, that would be great. It's on.
Hello, yeah. Thank you, Nikolai. Hi everyone. It's great to sit in this panel, yeah. We have our customers here, and we also have our competition here, but we always work together to strive to deliver, the connectivity, connecting the unconnected and underconnected in particular country. So I think, firstly, we need to understand that there's a symbiotic relationship, between MNO and Towerco, right? And they are interdependent between one another, right? And there will be impact, right? With whatever happen in one, will have some extent of impact to the other. And in this industry again, right, these are really capital intensive. It's all about scale. It's all about capital deployment. It's all about how you realize the synergies, right, across your large operation. And in times that we see in this market, companies, Towercos without scale will not be able to survive. You would see this consolidation among tower companies happening even without the MNO consolidating. If you look at Indonesia, for example, right? Matter of fact, you probably see in the past there are 50, 60 small tower companies. Today, I think it's all been consolidated, and you probably have 5 big tower companies. You probably have 3 or 4 medium ones, right? And essentially, what's the impact with MNO consolidation? Of course, this is about supply and demand. At the end of the day, the more number of customers you have, you will expect demand will be there to support the overall industry, right? in any case, I think consolidation can result to a lower number of customers, lower demand, but it could also be the other way around, given the fact that if the consolidated telco are going very aggressive in terms of expanding their network and really driving for quality, it could also be positive for the overall industry. Yeah. So the general rule is MNO consolidation, less number of customers, less number of demand. But to the contrary, it could be the reverse, assuming that with a stronger telco in the market today, with a different aspiration, trying to drive growth and quality, you may see that in the longer term, there's probably stimulate a lot more demand for infrastructure moving forward.
No, thank you. Suresh.
Thanks, Nikolai. And again, a pleasure to be here and see so many ex-colleagues, sort of on the panel. So we'll get there yet, Vikram. We'll get there yet as well, right? So, but I think it's interesting. So maybe I just address the question of MNO consolidations, then what TowerCo consolidations. And I think in principle, I agree with everyone on the panel. The one thing that's super interesting, I think, in the MNO space here in ASEAN, given market structure generally across most of the markets, these consolidations, I believe, are generally one larger business, taking on a bit of a smaller business, or one more advantaged business with more spectrum with a less advantaged business. So there's a imbalance being addressed. Whereas I think previous mergers tended to be, the word isn't desperation, but there's some crisis that precipitates some of the other mergers, and crisis is a very bad way to breed success, right? But we have some structural imbalances being addressed, which give you a very different dimension. So I see in these mergers, in both instances, we're very pleased to be partners of IOH and CelcomDigi, that we're seeing the long-term, and the short-term is noise, right? Long-term gains, we believe, are positive for the industry, right? There's more investment that is able to be made, right? So there's more spare cash, which can both be returned to shareholders and also reinvested in the industry, which is a very unique position telco has not been in for a long time, So that is, I think, a little bit of a difference in you see everyone here is preparing for the future. In some regions, these telcos are dealing with the consequences of the past. So struggling with those mergers is difficult. But here I see a very different thing. And in both cases, I think as a supporter of the merger, yes, there is some short-term kind of gain. I guess we'll talk about it later, but we look more at the long term. Then I think with towercos and infracos, are they also subject to the same pressures? I think yes, scale is inevitable. I totally agree on that. I think and in order to serve bigger customers, you must also have a bigger balance sheet so that you can grow along with them. We are, in fact, now taking one whole chunk of investment that telcos no longer make, and we're making it 100% upfront every year, right? So we have to have the ability, to have a large enough balance sheet, which can only come from a large enough business, per se. The one difference here is probably the stable structure. Nikolai spent many years writing stuff like this on slides, right? The industry stable structure. So, but I think in the tower infra market, you might have more parties able to be sustained than in the MNO market now, which would have been very different a few years ago. But I think now there can be more towercos, still on scale, but maybe fewer MNOs, right? Because of the way industry profit is working. As a towerco, mergers are not. We also will deal with the same issue of imbalance, but we have a problem if we merge unwisely. In the MNO world, you get to refresh your customer contracts. You may have some legacy plans, but over an 18-month cycle, you can cycle legacy plans out. It is impossible for a towerco to cycle out legacy MNO lease contracts, which last 10 years. So if you buy poor contracts in a merger or something, it will be a problem that you carry with you for the longest time, right? So I think in the tower world, you always have to be much more selective about the quality of the contract, and mergers are possible, but that's why I still think the predominant bias is probably likely less to be mergers, but consolidators acquiring assets, right? And I think so it will lead to the same outcome, scale, but maybe slightly different mechanisms will apply in the two sectors. Yeah.
No, thanks, Suresh. And let's maybe go to the implications of mergers. Obviously, it leads to a duplication of infrastructure. It requires upgrade investments in a network on the fiber side. And it creates definitely differing interests between the telcos